All right. Hey guys, I'm Chef Kyle Hires. Today I'll be making some black beans and rice with a little bit of Taco Tuesday chicken for you all. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get some onions going here and get my pan on. And I'm gonna use onions in both my rice and my beans. So I got it on a medium heat here. And what we're gonna do, we're just gonna do a nice little small dice on the onion. So what you wanna do is go ahead and take the top off. You can use as much onion as you like. It's completely up to you. We're gonna mix some garlic in as well, some minced garlic. So it is entirely up to you and your taste of what you like. Whenever you're working with a cutting board, always make sure it is secure with a wet towel so that your board doesn't slip out from in front of you. And always, whenever you're cutting with a sharp knife, make sure you are protecting your fingers. All right, so occasionally you might lose a piece of your onion because you're not holding it tight enough and you're scared to get cut. That's all right, just get it back and you're good to go. So I'm gonna use half of the onion on the rice, and then the other half will be used for the black beans. So that's how you get full use out of one of your onions. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and have that one there. Let's go ahead and get it going here. This is just called a bench scraper, and this is just to help you to scrape the stuff up off your cutting board. A lot of times people use the side of their knife, and that can actually be bad because the side of your knife can get dull if you do it too often. And so you want to make sure that you are investing in a bench scraper or something with a flat side that you can, get some functional use out of. So there you go, there's the sizzle you want. We're gonna let this pan with the wider surface area be for our rice. All right, and then the other one can be for our black beans. And the black beans are canned. They're an organic, low sodium black bean. And you can always go ahead and do black beans the old fashioned way overnight and soak them and sort through the beans yourself. But I like to use a can when I'm doing Taco Tuesday. So if I'm doing like a chili or a stew or a soup, then I'll go ahead and put the love into it and pick through some dried black onion myself. So what you can do also when your onion starts to get like this, go ahead and lay it down on the widest flat side so that you have more area, more space to cut. All right, and you always want to protect your fingers, so keep those turned in like a claw. And there you have it. Always swipe down towards the cutting edge, not up. Sounds simple. I've taught culinary arts for, this is my 4th year now, and I've seen people do some crazy things, we'll just say that. All right, so once you get your onion all diced up, you're ready to go. Go ahead and look at adding some garlic in. I'm gonna do about a tablespoon. We really love garlic here in my family. I'm gonna do for the beans, I'm gonna do about a tablespoon of minced garlic as well. And I buy it pre-minced already. You can mince it up yourself. It's completely up to you. This is a shortcut that I like to use, so that's what I'm doing today. All right, so you can just let that go until you start to sweat out some of the white in your onions and it starts to get a little bit translucent. Once it does that, or once you start, you don't want your garlic to burn, so that's why I'm keeping it on a medium heat. Once you do that, you're gonna go ahead and add your rice. So this is actually how we do pilaf style rice. I'm going to add my rice in, which is, I'm using a basmati rice today, which I've already rinsed off and let dry out some. So we're going to add that in. And then for the black beans, like I told you, I'm using canned black beans. So right now, I can use the same tool to stir because I'm cooking the exact same thing. Once I add the beans in, I'll probably want to go ahead and switch out to another utensil for my beans versus my rice. But once the beans go in, you can really just let them rip and let them cook for a while. If you look at the onions here, you see they're starting to bubble, starting to sweat. So that's actually a good thing. That's what you want. And like I said, you don't want your garlic to start to brown too much because that'll give a bitter taste. So we're gonna go ahead and use it from here. And like I said, give it a good stir and then add the rice granules in. Let those toast for a little bit before adding your liquid. So remember, your liquid is usually a 2 part to 1 part ratio, 2 parts liquid to 1 part rice. Some people have other methods using finger notches and knuckles on their hand. It's whatever works for you, whatever you grew up with in your family that works, you use it. I'm a measurement guy, so that's what works for me. All right. Now, one thing to note is with a wider surface area, things are going to cook a little bit quicker. So I essentially have the back burner, which is a smaller burner on a higher temperature, but it's not cooking as quick. That's because of the sides, the onions aren't as spread out as they are with the wider surface area. So remember, wider surface area means a quicker cooking time. So that wide pan over there will be used for my chicken later. I'll be able to get all 4 or 5 pieces in at once, and it'll be great. All right, so my garlic is starting to brown a little bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my rice in. And you hear it sizzling. There's probably still a little bit of water left on my rice, but that's okay. It is an amazing smell. As a friend of mine put up once, what is that amazing smell starter kit? Is usually oil or butter, and then onions and garlic are what we call aromatics in the culinary industry. So aromatics, something that smells up the kitchen, makes it smell good. And the cool thing is this rice, the time that it's going to take to cook is going to be equivalent to about the time it's going to take to fire off the chicken. So you're going to look at about 20 to 25 minutes total. So it's completely, like I said, up to you to get everything in at the same time if you can. You also have the method of air frying or cooking your chicken in the oven, but we want to get a nice sear on ours tonight for our tacos, and so we'll cut it up and shred it and all that good stuff later. So letting the rice, you can let it toast a little bit. So at this point your garlic's probably not going to burn because there's a lot more product in the pan. And with that, you know, you have a better chance of everything cooking evenly now. So you can see in the back, my onions and garlic is starting to sizzle up a little bit. So I can go ahead and add in my black beans and get those going. And if you want to add more butter or more liquid or less liquid, it's completely up to you. I like for mine to have a little bit of juice on them. That's completely your ordeal. You can rinse them off and get the liquid off that comes in the can. I just usually just boil it off, and then that's usually how I roll. So, but completely up to you and your fancy and whatever you like. All right, so one trick I added to the rice is I squeeze a little bit of fresh lime in there, and I cut up a fresh lime, and I leave those slices in there right before I get ready to add my water. So you can hear the rice kind of sizzling right now, and that's just showing that it is ready for its liquid. So you want to make sure you give it one more stir. Yep, and it started to toast to the point where it would almost burn. So I wouldn't get an A in culinary class with this, but it's okay. So we're gonna go ahead and add our liquid. And once you do that, like I said, you can do one of the different tests that people use if you want. You just do the finger. It's completely up to you, but that looks about right. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and I also add a little bit of cumin to mine as well, just to truly get that earthy flavor. And then I'm going to put my lid on, drop the temperature down to medium low, and just let that go for about 20 minutes. Now once I do that, I am ready to start my pan over here for my chicken. The beans are just going to go the whole time. They're going to rip and run on that same temperature until they start to boil. When they do start to boil, the liquid's going to start to reduce, which is completely fine. So in the pan, the large saute pan, we're going to put a little bit of oil and a little bit of butter, and then we're going to get our marinated chicken in that we've had going since yesterday. So one of the tricks to having a great Taco Tuesday is to make sure you marinate your chicken from the night before or whatever you're using. All right, so beef, chicken, steak, whatever it is, marinate it from the night before. All right, so with your pan, your saute pan, you want to add a little bit, a couple tablespoons, and that's olive oil right there. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter. And you always want to make sure your pan is preheated before adding this in, so that once this melts down, you are ready to go with adding your protein or whatever you're cooking off. This goes for vegetables as well. All right, so this is just going to get that flavor around. The butter adds the flavor profile, while the oil adds the smoke point, a higher smoke content. So because of the fat in the milk that's in butter, it doesn't have as high of a smoke point as the oils do. So it's a nice little combination that you want to use, and that's one of the things you want to use and remember when you're cooking. All right, so our pan is nice and hot now. You can see the butter starting to jump in the pan a little bit. You hear it sizzling, and the noise, the sound that you always want to listen for, right, is that beautiful sizzle. That's it right there. It looks like I'm probably, these are some big chicken breast now. I don't want to overcrowd my pan, because as I mentioned, I do want a good sear on it. I'm probably going to just start with these big ones here. And as you can see, that's plenty of chicken right here for taco night. And you can crank your heat up on this a little bit, because as you can see, the reserved liquid that was from our marinade, right? We used our Chef Kyle Hires Everything Season Blend, and a little bit of lime juice, and some cumin, additional cumin, and some Worcestershire sauce, just to make a nice little flavorful marinade. Overnight marinades are good because they start to break down the protein to where it'll be a little bit more tender when it cooks. So we also have some ground black pepper in there as well. So we're going to give this about 5 to 10 minutes on each side. It's completely up to you. It's up to your pan. It's up to your range. So whatever works for you, that's what you guys want to make sure you do. Okay? So we're going to let this go for a while, and then we'll check back with it right before we flip it. Over here in our black beans, we added some smoked paprika, a little bit of cumin, some salt, and some black pepper. So we're just making sure our beans are flavorful, and like I said, that's going to go for a long time. You can put a lid on it and let it cook. Like I said, I like to let the juice cook off, so that's just me. That can cook for the full length of the rice as well as the chicken, and so on and so forth. Beans are good. Canned beans can go all day long, so it's a great thing. So we should be ready with dinner here in about 15 minutes. All right, so the chicken's been going for about 5 or 6 minutes or so, and I can see that it's starting to turn a little opaque on the sides there, where it's starting to get a little white. Sorry about the glare. Okay. But what you can do, once you see that, that's a good point to start going ahead to check your chicken. And you want a beautiful brown color right here. Now there's a couple of options here. You can actually go into your oven with this pan if you had an oven preheated, or you can continue to cook it here. So that's the beautiful sear, nice and brown, all that good marinade flavor coming through. All right, so it's going to be about another 10 or 15 minutes or so. So that's why I said a lot of times you want to go, because these are bigger chicken breasts. So I'm going to go ahead and call it about 10 minutes just because it's boneless. But you can also go into the oven at this time and finish it in there. You can cover it, and that's what we call our braising method. So it's completely up to what you want to do at this point in time. So just let that cook. When it's done, you pull it out, you let it rest on your cutting board for about 5 or 10 minutes before you cut into it or shred it or whatever you're going to do, because you really want those juices to redistribute themselves throughout the process. Okay, so at this point, our chicken and all of our juices have started to dry up a little bit. And now I do what's called a finger test. Most chefs know how to do it. If your fingerprint stays in there, then it's not ready yet. If it bounces back, then your chicken is ready. There's also the temperature, the thermometer, right, where you stick it into the biggest part of the meat, and it gets up to 165 degrees for at least 10 to 15 seconds, which lets you know that it is done. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and pull it off and let that cool down and let that rest. So I'm going to let the chicken rest while my rice and my beans finish up. And once that happens, everything will be ready to go, and I'll show you guys the final plate. That's the timer for the rice.